Have you ever stopped to wonder why the men women seem to chase the hardest are usually the ones who barely lift a finger to impress them? Not the wealthiest in the room, not the most genetically blessed. Often, it's the guy leaning calmly, against the wall, unfazed, uninterested, the one who simply doesn't chase. Why is that? Think about it. While most men are out here performing emotional acrobatics, constantly texting, complimenting, overextending, a rare few stand still. No frantic energy, no approval seeking, just calm self-possession. And that is magnetic. It's not arrogance. It's not manipulation. It's something far more powerful. Self-respect anchored in purpose. These men know who they are. They don't seek validation. They radiate it. While 90% of men scramble to gain favor, the top 10% do something radically different. They value themselves first. Imagine the emotional contrast a woman feels. Constant attention from men who chase, and then suddenly, a man who doesn't need her to feel complete. This video dives into the 8 psychological reasons why high-value men ignore women, and why that simple shift flips the script completely. Let's break it down. Reason number 1. Scarcity creates value. What is the one thing women receive in overwhelming abundance, often without asking for it? Attention. From the moment she wakes up and unlocks her phone, she's greeted by a flood of DMs, likes, comments, and heart emojis. Compliments from strangers, validation from acquaintances, and thirsty advances from men she's never even met. It's constant, it's predictable, it's cheap. But then, something unexpected happens. She meets a man who doesn't immediately join the crowd. He doesn't double tap her latest selfie. He doesn't slide into her DMs with hard eyes. He doesn't shower her with hollow praise. And suddenly she feels it, a shift. He becomes an anomaly in a sea of sameness. While others seek to impress, he remains calm, composed, and detached. While others offer instant validation, he withholds his, not out of cruelty, but of clarity. Because high-value men know something most don't. Attention is currency, and the more you give it away freely, the more its value plummets. Think about it. Would gold be as precious if it were lying in the streets? In a world where constant flattery has become noise, the man who withholds it becomes music. Women notice, and more importantly, they remember. Reason number 2. Purpose comes first. The men who truly don't chase women, they're not faking it. They're not playing games or pretending to be disinterested just to gain attention. They're simply too focused on something bigger, their purpose. These are the men who wake up before the sun rises, not to check their DMs but to chase a vision. While others are scrolling through social media or crafting the perfect pickup line, he's sculpting his body in the gym, sharpening his mind through books and challenges, and building a future he refuses to compromise on. Ask yourself, who's more magnetic? The man who's waiting for her text, or the one too busy designing a legacy to notice her silence? High-value men don't have time to chase. Their energy is sacred. Every minute is invested into something meaningful, whether it's launching a business, perfecting a skill, or mastering their emotions. And ironically, it's that very detachment that makes women crave their attention. She senses his focus. She feels the fire in his ambition. And she realizes he doesn't orbit around her. He's the sun, and everything else moves around him. Reason number 3. Confidence is silent. Desperation echoes in every word, every glance, every action. It's a constant hum, begging for attention, pleading for validation. But confidence? Confidence doesn't need to scream to be heard. It's quiet, composed, and steady. like a still lake that draws the gaze of everyone around it without making a single ripple. Think about it. Most men, when they feel the pressure to impress, flood the space with words, gestures, and grand declarations of worth. They talk too much, over-explain, and try to prove they belong. But the high-value man? He doesn't need to speak louder or faster to command the room. He doesn't even try to impress. He simply is. His presence fills the space because he knows who he is. No words are required. Imagine walking into a crowded room. You look around, and among the chaos of noise and movement, there's one man whose calm confidence is palpable. His eyes don't dart around for approval. His posture is open but relaxed. He doesn't beg for attention, yet it gravitates toward him. Women notice him, not because of anything he says or does, but because his energy is different. His lack of need for validation is magnetic, like a pull you can't explain but feel deeply. Ignoring a woman in this case isn't about playing games or being cold. It's a sign of self-assurance. It's about not needing her to feel complete. This subtle power is what makes high-value men stand out, not the desperate need to be noticed, but the strength that comes from being content with themselves exactly as they are. And that in turn draws others in without any effort at all. Reason number 4. Power comes from detachment. Here's a truth that many aren't ready to face, but it's one of the most powerful dynamics in relationships. The person who cares less is the one who holds the power. Now, before you misunderstand this, let me clarify. It doesn't mean being cold, distant, or heartless. It doesn't mean using people or playing games with their emotions. Detachment isn't about shutting yourself off from connection, but rather being centered, being in a state where you're comfortable with who you are regardless of external validation. High-value men are masters of emotional control. They're not afraid of losing someone, because they understand that their worth isn't tied to the affection or approval of anyone, including a woman. They don't chase after love or attention, because they know that doing so would put them at the mercy of someone else's emotions. Instead, they choose to stand strong in their own energy, creating an invisible boundary that cannot be crossed by mere emotional manipulation. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who seemed so completely unaffected by the drama, by the emotions swirling around them, that you couldn't help but wonder, how do they do that? That's the power of detachment. When a woman realizes that she can't manipulate his emotions, when she sees that he doesn't need her attention or validation to feel whole, something powerful shifts. She becomes intrigued. Then curiosity sets in, and before she knows it, she's obsessed, trying to figure out what makes him different from every other man who's desperate to please her. Detachment doesn't just attract, it pulls people in like a magnetic force, without the need to try. Reason number 5. Emotionally unavailable, on purpose. Many men fall into the trap of thinking that being emotionally available 24/7 is the key to attracting women. They pour their hearts out at every opportunity, believing that vulnerability equals strength. But in reality, it's not attractive, it's a red flag. Imagine this: a man who's constantly spilling his feelings, sharing his every thought and worry without hesitation. It's not intriguing. It's overwhelming. It's easy to predict how he'll react, what he'll say, and where he stands emotionally. He becomes a book everyone can read. Now contrast this with a high-value man. He's not emotionally unavailable for the sake of playing games. He's simply discerning. He doesn't let just anyone into his emotional world. This man knows that his vulnerability is a precious currency, one that holds value only when shared with those who truly deserve it. And it's this very selectiveness that gives him a powerful edge. Think about it. Women are drawn to mystery. They're attracted to what they can't have, what they can't fully understand. When a high-value man holds back, when he remains emotionally reserved, it creates a palpable tension. This tension is magnetic. It sparks curiosity, ignites a deep desire to learn more about him, to unravel the layers he keeps hidden. When a woman can't predict his every move, his every feeling, she finds herself constantly thinking about him, wondering what he's thinking, feeling, and doing. This is where the magic happens. Tension, real emotional tension, is the spark that fuels attraction. It's what turns a simple interaction into a memorable moment, leaving her captivated and wanting more. And the high-value man knows this. He doesn't need to chase validation. He creates a world of his own that draws others in. Desire, real desire, is born in the space between mystery and revelation. Reason number 6. He sets the standard. Women test men. It's not something that's always spoken about, but it's true. They push boundaries, testing the limits of a man's patience, character, and emotional control. They want to see how he reacts when things get difficult, when she throws a challenge his way, or when she pushes him to his breaking point. It's not about cruelty. It's about understanding if a man is truly strong enough to handle the weight of her presence in his life. Women seek stability, not chaos. But unfortunately, many men fail these tests, not because they don't care, but because they react impulsively. They get defensive, they become overly emotional, or they over-explain themselves. And in doing so, they show their insecurities. But the man who understands his worth, the man who has done the inner work, he doesn't react. He doesn't get caught up in the drama. Instead, he calmly sets the standard for what he will and won't tolerate. He's unwavering in his principles. If something doesn't align with his values, he's not afraid to walk away. His time, his energy, and his attention are precious. He won't waste them on anything that doesn't honor him. He doesn't argue over petty things. He doesn't chase after validation or beg for respect. Instead, he simply withdraws, silent, composed, and resolute. This level of self-control is magnetic. It draws women in because it demands respect. It forces them to evaluate their behavior. They can no longer rely on manipulation, drama, or the usual tactics. Now they must step up to meet the high bar he's set. And when a woman feels like she has to rise to his level, that's when the real attraction happens. Wouldn't you agree? How often do we see men chasing after validation, only to lose the respect they once commanded? Reason number 7. He chooses, he doesn't beg. There's a world of difference between wanting a woman and needing her, and that difference is what separates the high-value man from the rest of the pack. Think about it. How often have you witnessed men desperately scrambling for a woman's approval, bending over backward to be noticed, to be desired? You've seen it, I'm sure. The man who constantly chases after her every word, his self-worth, tied to her validation. He's always trying to prove something to convince her that he's the one. But high-value men, they don't beg, they choose. A man who knows his worth doesn't chase, he observes. He doesn't need to audition for a woman's affection, hoping for a yes. Instead, he quietly evaluates. He watches how she moves, how she interacts with others, how she values herself. He knows that his attention is a valuable currency, and he's not about to throw it away on someone who doesn't meet his standards. This shift in mindset is transformative. It's not about arrogance or dismissiveness, it's about self-assurance. It's the subtle yet powerful realization that he is the prize. And once a man adopts this mentality, women feel the change. They sense it in the way he carries himself, the way he doesn't overextend himself, the way he's not scrambling for her attention but letting it come to him, if it's meant to be. It shifts the power dynamic. He goes from being the one chasing to the one being chased. Because when you stop needing someone, you begin to understand just how much you have to offer, and that's the most magnetic quality of all. Reason number 8. He's already fulfilled. Let's uncover the final, yet most powerful truth. High-value men don't ignore women as part of some elaborate game or strategy. They don't need to. They are already whole, already fulfilled. Their lives are complete because they've put in the hard work, day after day, to become the best version of themselves. These men have built lives that are rich with purpose, filled with excitement, and fueled by their own passions. They've honed their bodies through disciplined workouts, sharpened their minds through continuous learning, and nurtured their souls by embracing their spiritual journey. Each of these areas is a pillar that supports their identity, and it's from this solid foundation that they interact with the world. When a woman enters their life, it's not because they're looking for validation or searching for someone to fill an emotional void. They're not dependent on her for their happiness or sense of worth. Instead, they welcome her into their already full, vibrant world because they choose to. It's not about need, it's about desire. They're offering her a glimpse into the life they've created, a life that is meaningful, exciting, and self-sustaining. This, more than anything, is what makes them irresistibly attractive. Because when someone doesn't need anything from you, when they can stand on their own 2 feet and thrive independently, it creates a magnetic pull. It's the power of self-sufficiency. And that, in the end, is the most alluring quality of all. Final thoughts. In the modern world, it's easy to believe that to get a woman's attention, you need to chase her, send texts first, show up early, do whatever it takes to be seen and acknowledged. But here's the truth that many men overlook. Most men chase women. They'll jump through hoops, bend their schedules, and even compromise their values, all for a shot at validation. But what do these men get in return? A fleeting moment of attention followed by the inevitable frustration of being stuck in a cycle of proving their worth. Now, imagine a different kind of man, the high-value man. He's not desperate. He's not chasing women, but rather he's chasing his own purpose. His energy is consumed by creating, building, and becoming the best version of himself. His life is full. His goals are set, and his focus is unwavering. And because of this, something extraordinary happens. Women are drawn to him not because he seeks their approval, but because his ambition and self-sufficiency are magnetic. They can't help but be intrigued. The next time you catch yourself thinking you need to prove something to a woman, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, why do I feel the need to impress? What is it that I'm lacking in my own life that makes her attention feel like the ultimate prize? When you stop chasing, you'll realize that you're not here to win her validation. You are here to build a life that fulfills you. And in doing so, the right woman will naturally be drawn to you, not because you need her, but because you've become the kind of man she respects and admires. The game shifts completely when you stop playing by the rules everyone else follows. Stop chasing her approval. Instead, lead with confidence. Walk away when necessary. Be the man she remembers. The man who wasn't desperate. The one who didn't need her to feel complete. That's the kind of man women will chase. And when you stop chasing them, you'll realize that the power was always yours.